Hey everyone, welcome back to Launch Codes Football. My name is Chris,
And I'm Chelsea.
and today we are on episode 56. Wow, 50 ticks? 50 ticks. I'm done. I'm literally leaving. No,
Happy
56.
Wednesday.
I know, right? It's the middle of the week. We are at where we're at. But yeah, episode 56 here. We're going to be recapping the Super Bowl. I know this is a little bit behind, but I think actually there's some advantages to talking about it not immediately after.
We
And
needed some
so,
time to process,
well, okay, because everyone's going to have their hot takes. They're all going to have, everything that they've said, has already come out. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like we're going to be able to talk about this. And now that there's been some time to breathe on this Super Bowl, let's look and see maybe how history will perceive it. So, anyways, Chelsea, how are you today?
Doing well. How are you today?
We are chilling. It is the middle of the week and football's over.
Wednesday.
It's the bad thing about
Football's
the
a
Super Bowl.
well, that's not entirely true. The
XFL, baby.
XFL started.
Oh my gosh.
I'll have you know that Conlon and I have already picked different teams because, of course, we couldn't pick the same team. That would be too easy.
Yeah, boo.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
He picked the team with the Clemson players on it, and I picked the team with the Indiana players on it, and hence we cheer for different teams.
Welcome
The
to
one
fans of the
time we
XFL,
had the
honestly.
one time we had an opportunity to cheer for the same team, we couldn't even do it.
Nope.
Real
Nope.
shame.
Can't do that. Nope. Not allowed.
Nope.
Well, let's get into this. So I think I just wanted to talk about a little bit of just how. So we've had a couple weeks on the Super Bowl pass. We've had some time to think about this. So, Chelsea, what do you think over time is going to be the most memorable thing about this Super Bowl? What is the thing that people will think of when they think of Super Bowl 57, other than just who won it?
Probably how the Eagles defensive line didn't get a single sack and they had been a lead at that all year. And on top of that, they didn't get a single sack against an injured Patrick Mahomes, who was pretty obviously limping at certain points during this game.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think, or at least agree with part of that. I think that's going to be one of the things that'll be crazy to think about how the Eagles' defensive line did so well the entire year. Now, of course, a lot of Eagles fans and probably players are going to talk about the field conditions, but I don't think in the long term of history that's what's going to be remembered, because by the general NFL audience, I feel like this is just going to be one of those games that's forever remembered. Like, Mahomes was down 10 going into half. He came back and, they took the lead, and then it was a really great game, and then a holding call. Yeah. And so, honestly, I know this is kind of maybe where everyone's at, but I think it will be remembered for two things. Mahomes' great performance, because if he keeps winning Super Bowls, it's like with Tom Brady, right? He's won 7 of them. While some may discount some or the others due to bad reffing, whatever, ultimately, you don't really think on those. You just think, oh, he's won 7 of them, at least for me. And so I feel like this is just going to be another one where it's like, this is just another notch on Mahomes' belt where he came back down 10 out of the halftime and made it happen. Other thing, of course, I think this will be known for, unfortunately, is the infamous holding call. This probably this might be one of the most infamous calls in all of Eagles history. One of them in Super Bowl history. And man, it's tough because going by the rules, it's technically a foul. But I think it was such a disappointing way to end the game. Like, it was just kind of like, oh, the game's over now. Like, oh, there was a hold. Yeah, that's it. Game over. So I think that's how I'll probably remember it. Is this was a really great game that was kind of just ended in a not necessarily a dud, and it's not obviously Kansas City's fault. Yeah, they did the exact right thing, run the clock out, kick the field goal, win the Super Bowl. But I feel like I remember it as a good game, but the ending was kind of like, dang, that was sad the way that it ended. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of things remembered about this game, but the most prevalent in most American minds is going to be that holding call at the end of the game. Um, I've just read so many posts and things about the Eagles D line and how they were hyped up to be the best unit, front seven in the whole league, and they couldn't even get one sack against an injured Patrick Mahomes. I mean, first of all, I think that really speaks volumes to the Chiefs O line, which a lot of people discounted, including myself to some degree. So shout out to them, because after that Super Bowl where they went through it, I mean, they showed up for this game. And when we talked about our Super Bowl preview, I talked about that. I said this game is going to come down to the Chiefs being able to get a stop on defense and the Eagles' front seven. And it did. I mean, that's exactly what happened. The Eagles' front seven couldn't get it done, and the Chiefs' defense got stops when they needed to. Now, they didn't get that many. Don't hear me saying, oh, yes, the defense was excellent, because neither defense was excellent. It was a high-scoring game, just how it is. But they did get stops because they won. So they were able to do that. So both of the things that I said, I feel came to fruition. As for the infamous holding call, I'm of the opinion that the player came out and said it is a holding call. The film very obviously shows
Careful
that
what
it
you
is a
say
holding
here.
call.
Uh-oh.
If you don't want to get called for it, don't do it. The whole excuse of, oh, I was just hoping the ref would let it slide. I mean, yeah, that's entirely possible. And yeah, it happened at other points of the game. No one's going to sit here and say that they didn't catch, or that they caught everything, because they certainly didn't. And should they have called it in that moment because they let other penalties slip? Perhaps not. But by the book, that was a penalty, and the player came out and said it was. So if you don't want to get called for the penalty, don't commit it. I mean, the Eagles had opportunities during this game to win. They had a touchdown on a drive that they shouldn't have had because they fumbled and they called it back. And it should have been a touchdown for the Chiefs, but it wasn't. They got that call, but no, everyone cares about the call at the end of the game. That was obvious. Like, everyone in America saw what he did. Everyone. Like, would it have been nice if the Eagles had won? Yeah, I like Sirianni. I like Jalen Hurts. But at the end of the day, I mean, you had opportunities all throughout this game to win this game. One game does not come down to one call. As painfully obvious and as wrong as it is, you have a whole game to win. If the game comes down to one penalty at the end, that is your team's fault for not doing more to win the game without that happening. I mean, that's just my opinion. And I would say the same thing about the Colts. I mean, I've seen so many penalties for the Colts that have just screwed them over in games. And it's like, could you just have let that pass? And it's like, well, you had opportunities during the game. Like, if you didn't want it to come down to that, you had your opportunities, you know? So should the refs had let them play in that situation with that much time? Perhaps. But, I mean, they were doing their job. It was a penalty by the book. They're the refs. They theoretically follow the book, though, sometimes the book goes out the window. But at least they did there. So, I mean, it's not like they just called it and there was nothing. Now, that would be different. If they called a holding and there wasn't, I'd be big mad over here because that's just wrong. But, like, there was. And if the Chiefs had done the same thing, it would have been the same situation. Like, if you don't want it to decide the game, don't put yourself in that situation. That goes for any team in any game at any time. That's just in any sport, to be honest. I mean, you have opportunities throughout a whole game to win. And I know I make that sound easier than it is in real life, but the Eagles put up 30 plus points, even with turnovers. Like, imagine if they hadn't turned the ball over. They probably could have scored more points. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I get why people are mad, but like, they did their job. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just kind of indifferent. If it was me and I was an Eagles fans, I'd be livid. I would. I'd be so mad. But like, just don't commit it. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just feel like it's getting blown out of proportion. Maybe that's just me, but
Chelsea, you better hide your face from social media, from any Eagles Twitter or Eagles Instagram
I
or
mean,
Eagles
perhaps
Reddit.
so. And I don't say that to infuriate Eagles fans. I say it as an unbiased NFL fan looking at the game. Like, you put him in a situation where he was forced to do that to not prevent a touchdown. I mean, what else is he supposed to do? Give up the touchdown and not touch him? I mean, it's like, regardless, he's probably going to score, because it was wide open. The field was wide open. So,
look, here's my theory. I have a crazy theory. Now, hear
a
me out.
crazy theory.
Here's a theory, right?
Chris, conspiracy
Actually,
theorist.
no, this is not a theory. This is exactly what happened. Now, listen here.
Okay.
Listen
okay.
here. So, of course, people who listen or know me know my team is the Panthers, right? Of course. What did they have anything to do with this Super Bowl? Well, let me tell you.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
They had a
Oh, I
lot to
know.
do with this Super Bowl. Now, hear me out a second. So, okay, hear me out. So we've got, of course, James Bradbury. Guess what? Drafted by the Panthers originally. Yes, he went to the Giants after, but then he went to the Eagles, signed by the Eagles this offseason. But originally a Panther. We have Hassan Reddick, who was a Panther last year and very good this year overall, but really just in the Super Bowl couldn't quite get it done. Now, who did we have commentating over the Super Bowl? Let me tell you, it was good old Greg Olson, doing the color commentary. Another fact, another fact here to this one. When that defensive score for Kansas City happened, do you know when the last time a defensive score happened in the Super Bowl? It was when the Panthers and Broncos played. So I'm not saying that in this weird way, the Panthers screwed the Eagles over because, just weird stuff and, crazy things happen. They, traded even McCaffrey over to San Francisco and he carried that team. And who knows? All right, hear me out. What if they don't get McCaffrey? What if 49ers don't trade for McCaffrey? The 49ers don't make it to the NFC Championship.
Wow,
And
you're really going all in here.
Healthy quarterback. I'm just saying, man.
Wow.
Crazy theory, I know. But the Panthers were in some way, shape, or form, their shadow was in the Super Bowl. And unfortunately, that shadow was over the Eagles. And so.
No, I mean, that's true. And I mean, like you just pointed out, Jalen Hurts had a fumble 6, right? I mean, you prevent that from happening. You prevent that score then and there, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, all of the people online that just say that the Super Bowl came down to one play, I just don't buy it. I'm sorry.
It never does.
I just don't. Right. Did it kill the game? Absolutely. Was the end of the game boring? Absolutely. But does a game come down to one play? No. If it came down to one play, the game would be 2 minutes long. No, a game is comprised of a ton of events that happen, sometimes at the same time and sometimes not at the same time. I mean, Jalen Hurts played elite in that game. He was amazing in that game. But that fumble killed them. It did. And the Miles Sanders fumble should have been a touchdown and wasn't. So not only did they get that touchdown back, but they gave one away because of Jalen Hurts. So anyone on Reddit or whoever that's going to come at me and be like, how dare you say that it didn't come down to one play? Like, do you know how many heartbreaking losses I have seen by the Indianapolis Colts by one play? Probably not that many because you don't watch them because no one really cares about them here but me, okay? But let me just tell you, it happens frequently. I understand the feeling. Perhaps not in the Super Bowl context, but I understand the feeling. I promise. I do. In the Super Bowl, I had to deal with Tracy Porter, okay? That still haunts me. All right? Come on, guys. I understand what it's like to have a game stolen from you. Seriously. But
the onside kick.
Yes. And think about the punt return at the end of the game. I mean, that's a missed opportunity. In that situation, that cannot happen. I'm sorry. It just can't. But
I
it
mean,
did.
it was a great run by the Kansas
It
City guy, but
it
yeah,
was. Yeah, it was. And all the credit to Kansas City. But at the end of the day, you can't allow that in the Super Bowl after halftime. You can't. So like I said, there are opportunities that they had. There are opportunities that were missed on both sides. I mean, the Chiefs missed opportunities too. So I won't sit here and say it was just the Eagles and harp on them. But I'm sorry, I just don't buy into the one play makes a game thing. Because you wouldn't be in that situation if other things hadn't have happened. That's just my opinion. Flame me if you want, but at the end of the day, I don't buy into it. I just don't.
gotcha. So real quick, I did want to mention something here because I think this will be an interesting topic. What do you think? Um, let's say Jalen Hurts never wins a Super Bowl, right? Is this game going to be kind of a bad reflection on him, even though he played great? Oftentimes we still like to blame the quarterbacks for the loss. Do you think this is going to be like a stain on his career if he never gets to or wins another Super Bowl? Is this what we're going to remember? I don't know.
If he never wins one, it may be just because of the fumble. I'll be honest. But I hope that he wins one. I like him. He's a cool guy and a good quarterback, so I hope he gets a Super Bowl eventually. I'm not in the NFC, so I don't really care about what goes on over there as long as Tom Brady doesn't win, and Tom Brady's gone now. So really
Actually,
anyone from there could win. I really don't care. But no, I mean, I think that would stain his greatness one day if he never wins a Super Bowl. It's like, oh, remember that first Super Bowl that Hurts was in where he fumbled it and got run back for a touchdown and they lost by 3 points at the end of the game? Man, imagine what would have happened if he hadn't done that. I can already hear the conversations, and I'm sure you can as well. So let's
mhm.
just hope that they don't happen. But it wouldn't surprise me if people use that against him
I
20 years later.
and honestly, they will, and I think it's really unfair. He played a near perfect
He
game.
did.
He
That was
even
really his only mistake, honestly.
I'm sorry, he carried the Eagles in a lot of ways in that
I
game.
mean, he
I
had
mean,
3 rushing touchdowns.
you could
3.
argue he played better than Mahomes.
There's an
And
argument for that.
so honestly, I think unfortunately he is going to yes, because the way it works in the NFL is when you lose, who gets the blame? The quarterback. It's just that's unfortunately that is just the responsibility of being QB. Even though, yes, he made one mistake and it was a big mistake. It cost 7 points. Not gonna act like that didn't happen. But I really think even Jalen Hurts was getting like votes for Super Bowl MVP, which honestly, I don't blame people. No one, of course, I don't think he really would want it if he didn't win. I feel like no one would really want it if they didn't win. I don't know. But I think that honestly, he probably was the Super Bowl MVP looking at both teams. I mean, he carried the Eagles. And so, of course, Mahomes had some of his fantastic, great plays too. Don't get me wrong, he very much did. Mahomes did his thing, calm and collected, led his team well, running on like one leg, basically, for most of the game. I mean, it was insane what he was doing. If I was that injured, I swear, getting up to go to the kitchen would be like, you know, the adventure. And Mahomes is out
Amen.
here winning the Super Bowl. So I really think that also Andy Reid really stepped it up in the second half with his coaching, play calling, and everything. I mean, Eric Bieniemy, rip him not getting a head coaching job. I think he called a very good second half. Really threw the Eagles off a couple times there, but unfortunately, yeah, I think there will be a small minority of people who didn't actually watch the game. If years from now Jalen Hurts never wins one, they're gonna think of this game, and they're gonna be like, he didn't get it done. Because sometimes quarterbacks get all the credit, sometimes too much credit, but sometimes they also get way too much blame. And so, unfortunately, yes, I do think some people will remember this. However, I do think if he doesn't win another Super Bowl, there will probably be other games that people will remember more. Because,
I will say though,
yeah,
I mean, Eric Bieniemy didn't call the plays in this game. Andy Reid did. He did not call plays for the Chiefs. He helped develop the game plan, so it's not to say that he didn't have zero impact, because he had a huge impact. But Reid called the plays, and I mean, in my opinion, Reid's the second best coach in the NFL. So, I mean, he's there for a reason, and he's won the amount of Super Bowls he has for a reason.
Who's better?
Belichick or him?
Okay. You mean second best all time or right now?
Second best coach now. I would still put Belichick first, but I would put Reid second. And below that, I think there's a drop off.
I mean, it is something to say when Andy Reid has like never had a bad quarterback, as far as like when they're under him, they're good. You know?
Yeah.
And so honestly,
well, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's a lot of good coaches in the league, but I just feel like Belichick and Reid are like the cream of the crop, you know?
remember when we used to think of Andy Reid as a big time choker, like he couldn't get it done in the big game, and which was true. He was.
I mean,
it
wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't inaccurate when that was being said. That's true.
But now he's got Mahomes. It's like, oh, it's Andy Reid. He's got,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's.
I mean, having the best quarterback in the league tends to help you a little bit.
Yeah, and potentially, if it keeps going, is he gonna be the GOAT? I don't know. I said if it keeps going.
I think at this point, it's probably too early to tell.
Way too early.
I think that Mahomes would need to win at least one more Super Bowl before he's 30 to have a legitimate shot. Because he's what, 27 right now? So if he can win one more before he's 30 and maybe get one more MVP at least before he's 30, I think he has a good shot. I mean, I know the argument is Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowls. Who's ever going to top that? Well, what if Mahomes gets twice as many MVPs? I mean, I think that there's an argument that if you get more MVPs and still have Super Bowls, that you could potentially become the best player ever. I think there is an argument for that. But regardless, I think it's just too early. But he has a good head start. I mean, he didn't even play his first year in the league, and we're already talking about him potentially becoming the GOAT one day. So it's not to say he doesn't have a good lead, because he does. He started out strong. It's just going to be a matter of if, number one, if Andy Reid doesn't retire. Because if Andy Reid retires, I think that'll change some things. I think Mahomes is still good enough to go out and win with the Chiefs team that he's on, but not having Reid there is going to hurt, regardless of who you are, just because of how good he is. But no, like I said, if he can get another Super Bowl and at least another MVP before he's 30, I mean, I think that there's a pretty good shot. But we really can't compare until he retires and both of them, aren't playing anymore.
True. I guess we'll find out.
Unless he wins 8 Super Bowls before he retires, and then we can say he's the best. Okay, that's the only exception.
Tom Brady's always going to hold it over him that he beat him in the Super Bowl. He's always going to hold that one.
That's true.
It is true. And honestly, he beat him twice in the playoffs. All the times they faced in the playoffs, Brady won. And I know he's happy about that one.
Yeah.
And then Mahomes can be like, well, what about Eli Manning? And then,
oof.
But that's pretty much all we got for today. So Chelsea, you want to lead us out of here?
Yeah, of course. So thanks for listening, guys. Tune back in next week for more content. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at LaunchCodesFB and on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at LaunchCodesFootball. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Chris.
And we will see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.